Hello folks, Typhoon Carter here, and I bring to you another DPP Revival Invitational series. This is a round 3 losers bracket matchup between Garay and Skyrio, who is going by Akane here. Whoever loses here is going to be eliminated. Garay had to beat Mishimono in round 1, but then lost to Deep Blue Sea in round 2. Whereas for Skyrio lost against John in round 1, but beat T-Wash the previous round. So Skyrio once again has to fight for their tournament life. But that said though, let's jump right into this. Jirachee lead, Kingdra lead, specs Kingdra probably into a Milotic, Garay showing stall. And Jirachee perhaps Wish Protect or Scarf, either is valid, and Latias is shown, so a Skyrio with a double dragon action here. Into Kingdra, into Jirachee. Jirachee's got Protect here. Probably realizes its specs. And then plays around this, goes to Milotic. Metagross can threaten an explosion here, but Garay's just got Surf, but gets tricked with Iron Ball, so it's got to lose its lefties, which can make it susceptible to... Oh, great EQ there by Skyrio. Gets rid of the Magnezone. And the Needle Queen, man, Garay's in trouble now. The Metagross getting a lot of trade value, and Garay's got to have another ground immune. Latias is shown, so that was probably a Scarf Mag stall. Osgood style team. And Tyranitar is going to be sent out on Skyrio's end. Going to threaten a huge crunch here. Going to do 54%. And the Surf only doing 40% to his Tyranitar. So does not want to stick around. Knows it's Choice Lock, but the Jirachee's going to take significant damage there. So it's not... So it's got Iron Head here into this Metagross, so Jirachee is faster, but U-turns out here. Gotta try to play around EQ. And don't forget the Milotic is slowed down, so can't actually take anything particularly well. Reflect is gonna be put up, so... Froze out Toxic, Reflect Toxic, probably drop T-Wave on this. That's a pretty cool set. I like that, big fan of it, but Tyranitar is now on the timer. Clefable is going to be sent out here, opted not to stay in. Taunts the Clefable. Oh, so it's a CM Clef, which makes sense on this kind of team. And Ice Beam, not surprising, given it's probably Bolt Beam CM Clef. And as for Skyrio's last, could be a fighter, potentially. Yeah, so there's the Lucario. Neo Queen's gonna be sent out here, and it will not be able to take a hit from this at all, and close combat's just gonna do the job here. And Garay's gonna say GG, and Skyrio's up 1-0. So a little bit of post-game de facto commentary. I didn't do it here, didn't see a chance to pause here. Going in with the Magnezone, I think was a little bit reckless from Garay. I don't think he needed to force that, but you can kind of see how Garay's team structure here, like with only Latias being the only, well, okay, well he has 2 Spike Immunes, but generally you can kind of see how these teams, when they deal with Scar, they rely on something like Magnezone to limit the amount of spikes that goes up, limit it to 1 layer. And then it was probably Scarf Magnezone because this team badly needs speed control otherwise. And you still have something like Milotic, which can like reasonably trade with something like a Gyarados if it's like HP Electric Milo. If it is like, you know, maybe it's like recover free attacks like Surf Ice Beam, HP Electric, so they can handle DDers. And then obviously you have the Neo Queen, which looks like it was especially defensive from what I can tell. But you can kind of see how like a team like this relies on something like Mag to take care of Lucario, which is typically a problem on stall, especially if you're running defensive Jirachee. And Skyrio's team just a little bit pretty straightforward double dragon action, and then you got your 2 steals, and then you have the Gliscor to help in the stall matchup in case something like Lucario has to deal with a fast Jirachee. But that said though, let's go into game 2. Game 2, Azelf lead, Smeargle lead. This is certainly a lead matchup if I've ever seen one. There's a couple ways this can play out. Now, if this Azelf is Lumberry, then this is actually pretty bad for Smeargle. Especially, let's say it's Scarf Smeargle, but the Smeargle also has to be wary of getting taunted. So if I'm Skyrio here, if you have U-turn, you should definitely U-turn here. If you're Garay, you could either just play straight taunt, or you could probably just get rocks up, but that's it. Let's see how this plays out. Just gotta get rocks up here, knowing that Skyrio probably has to play around this. So it's a spike offense with Rotom, calls out the Rotom switch, but meets a Heatran instead as the Rotom answer. And Latias is going to threaten the Surf. And that crit might have, oh wow, that may or may not have killed. We don't know the Azelf bulk investment, but Surf's not gonna quite do it. And wow, both these players are just gonna trade down. So the Latias is pretty much dead, but Gary's down early. Flygon's gotta be sent out here, and that might be a CB Flygon on Gary's end, because normally stab EQ, Metagross is so durable that it will normally not kill, and then that's a Mixgon, which is a staple on these Smeargle hyper offense teams. So you got Double Dragon, you kinda got some nice synergies here, and then Lucario. Yeah, this is just like very straightforward offense from both players. The Rotom's obviously a huge threat. Gonna sacrifice the Gyarados. Instead, eats a overheat with ease, and the Gyarados is now gonna be able to set up here. DD's up here. I would just click Waterfall. Don't even think about too. Oh, nice sub there. And Spore's going to fail, and that's gonna do it. So very quick games here, and Gary quickly tying it back up in 14 turns against Skyrio, and it's gonna be 1-1. So sub on Gira with lefties makes a lot of sense here, because you want sub to maybe block status, especially because if you're not running Lumberry or anything of that kind, then you would be in trouble. It's probably something like DD. It might be like a mono Waterfall with like Waterfall T-Wave. Sub, that's like one way you could do it. Could also just be something like Waterfall Outrage or Waterfall Return. There's a couple combinations you can run with DD Gira. So there's that. And for Skyrio, I think like just not being able to get any hazards up, and this is kind of the problem you see with Smeargle teams, is generally the matchup that you have against something like an Azelf, something like an Arrow, like just taunt leads in general. That could just prevent Smeargle from executing its game plan. And Gary, knowing that this was a bad matchup, opted to get hazards up anyways, knowing that Skyrio can't really try to Spore, because either A, the Azelf is Lum, which would be really bad, or 2, the Azelf taunts, and you're kind of screwed either way. So you kind of see how like Gary was able to take advantage of that. And then staying ahead in the trade war, but I think Skyrio probably got caught off guard by the Flygon KOing the Metagross, because like usually non-Scarf Flygon, or like usually only like CB or Life Orb Flygon would be able to KO Meta, but I'm not even so yeah, there's that. But let's go into game 3. Here, game 3. Rose lead, Jirachee lead. Interesting lead here. Rose, this might be Scarf. Could be like a fast Scarf Rose. Could also just be Focus Sash. This Jirachee, if this is like Scarf Rachi, you could just Iron Head. Even U-turning might be okay. The reason why you might not want Iron Head is like in case you run into like a Buzzsaw, like a Mag or something, then you're kind of in trouble. But let's just see how this plays out. Iron Head's here, so gets the T-Spikes off, so that's a bulky Rose lead. And Skyrio bringing out a Clefable, so this is very much a stall team. And Rose got Eat the Knock here, so Gary probably has a Heatran in the back. And bringing out Tyranitar here, just to block the Sleep Powder, which is nice, but it's probably Scarf. And great pivot there from Skyrio, and Swampert's gonna be shown to be Protect. So Swampert can probably just let EQ rip. Gets rocks up, that works too. Gonna have to have a Sleep Absorber here. And opts to go into Heatran, try to call that out, but Facade shown, so this might be SD Breloom like Paraspam. If it's showing Facade, you usually wouldn't see that Breloom set otherwise. And Latias got burned, which is actually really bad for it because you're just losing health every turn, especially with sand damage too. And gotta get Reflect up here. Gary's just gonna Pursuit. That Pursuit doing pretty pitiful damage. I think that's non-CB. Yeah, it is a Lumberry. Gotta just keep pursuing. If you're Skyrio, do you recover here? He does, but risking a defense drop. Going to have to recover again. And opts to switch out here. The Jirachee will eat this pretty comfortably. Goes to a Rotom Wash, so this is very much a Fire, Water, Grass core. Last probably could be a Jirachee. Could also be, well, it's gotta be something. Well, actually no, you have the Tyranitar to beat Clefable ideally, so it's not too bad. But I expect the last to either be like a Floater, maybe like a Healing Wish Lati, and oh, just got a Superpower there. That's gonna get the job done, and the Breloom is going to threaten the KO here. Superpower's here, going to get the KO that he's looking for, but the Heatran is probably going to threaten this Breloom out. What do you know it does? Latias gonna be sacrificed to hazards, and go get a sub up here. Gonna send Tyranitar out, and yeah, you kind of see how like this team ideally will try to beat something like a Clefable, because that's the #1 thing if you're building T-Spikes in DPP, is that you need to have a game plan against Clefable. And in Gary's case, the game plan against Clefable is something like Explosion. Well, it's probably not Explosion Heatran, but something like T-Tar, Rotom, and then the last ideally is another beater that beats Clef. But you see T-Spikes in full effect here. Earth Power, so it is not Explosion last. And this Tyranitar is almost certainly dead. Gonna Protect here for extra chip damage from T-Spikes. He didn't E-Power there because he wants as much health on the Heatran as possible so that he can check Jirachee. Last is Magneton on Skyrio's, and which is like pretty normal because on these teams you normally need to have a way to handle DDers, which this team would have problems otherwise. Something like a Gyarados, like Taunt-Gira would be really annoying. Even like, you know, DD Dragonite, for example. And Superpower going to FUD into a Rotom. This Rotom's got threatened a lot of damage here. Gonna get a Shadow Ball off on this Jirachee, probably faster if it's Scarf. No, this looks like it's 308 Jirachee, and U-turns into a Breloom, and the Breloom's gonna get Spadef dropped. And this game is almost certainly all but over, as the Jirachee cannot break the Heatran. But even if you make it past the Rotom, okay, you're gonna get KO here, but you have Lefty's Swampert and Lefty's Heatran. You just do not have enough PP to actually get this done. And doesn't even get to flinch the first time. So Gary's gonna take this series 2-1. Thank you for playing Skyrio. Skyrio will unfortunately be eliminated in round 3. Overall, a little bit of post-game commentary. Skyrio's team, like, you know, you got Breloom, T-Tar, and then you got the Magneton. This is like a pretty cool take on Paraspam. Usually some of these Paraspam structures, the traditional Paraspam structure you might think of is something like Rhyperior plus CB Tar, although I think in Skyrio's case he did SD Breloom plus CB Tar, which is like a pretty good combo as well. And then you have 4 Paraspreaders. I assume the Jirachee was probably Trick U-turn body slam Iron Head. That's probably one possible set, and then the Clefable probably had T-Wave. Magneton almost definitely wants T-Wave, and as does the Latias. But whereas with Garay, the last tier, I expect there maybe to be something like a Latias could be plausible. Something like a second steel, like his own Jirachee, is also plausible as well, but I don't think that's as likely just because of the fact that you'd be too grounded and you don't have great counterplay against Spike Stack. So I would assume it's probably like a Laddie, maybe a Healing Wish Laddie would make some sense here. But that being said though, if you guys enjoy these videos, like, comment, subscribe. Hopefully we can hit 1,000 subs soon by the time I upload this video. That being said though, I will see you guys next time.